Hello, AFC members. This is Ken Freedman, and I have the pleasure of hosting today's chat with Rabbi Eli Goodman. Rabbi Goodman is the rabbi at the Chabad of the Beaches in Long Beach, and I had the pleasure of being at his Shabbat services this past Saturday. And while the service was fantastic, part that was really interesting and why we have him here today is that he just returned from a solidarity mission where he was over for a short 4 or 5 days, I don't know, over in Israel with a number of other rabbis. I think they're all Chabad, but I'm going to let him speak about his trip, tell you about things that he saw, observed, some of the strength that he saw of the people and the inspiration he saw in the people. I know he visited some tough places. And I know he was in some other places seeing the regular people that weren't so impacted directly. So anyway, with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rabbi Goodman and let him share, what he saw and what he did and about his trip. So thanks for joining us, Rabbi. And
my pleasure. How you doing, Ken? Just this Friday morning we got back, and it really was I would say a grassroots mission. It was like when the war started, we all went to solidarity rallies. We went to show our support. Everybody started raising money. We had a couple events in different synagogues to inspire the people and at the same time let them know how serious this was. But I felt I had to do more. And all of a sudden I saw on a WhatsApp going amongst the rabbis in Chabad that somebody was looking to do a solidarity mission. So as soon as I saw that, it was 4 days, it wouldn't impact Shabbos, and we would go there and we would and visit the soldiers. We would visit some of the mourners. We were at that point, we were thinking of trying to visit some of the families of the hostages. And I just came home that night and told my wife, I want to go. I'm going to buy a ticket and I'm going to go. And at that time, there were only like 6 or 8 rabbis that had participated at that point when I agreed to go, but ended up being 27. They were looking for 25, but they ended up having 25 Chabad rabbis from the US. They had 1 rabbi from Canada and 1 rabbi from Australia that joined us. So everybody was there for literally 4 or 5 days maximum, and it was an experience like I've never had before in Israel. You think this, we're thinking that it Israel's darkest hour, but I sort of felt that this was Israel's finest hour from how the people were reacting to the situation and the strength that I saw from the people. I was really, and I think many of the other rabbis felt that we came to inspire and to show solidarity and to volunteer and to help. But I think we gained more from the trip than perhaps the people in Israel themselves, because we got to see firsthand the greatness of the Jewish people, especially in the Holy Land.
It sounds like it was great. So many of our members I know want to get over there, and usually there's a fall mission, and it was obviously postponed at this point in time. But you told a few stories about your visit to one of the kibbutzim, also some of the things you saw in in the hotel that you were staying in that was some interesting stories about the children maybe and those folks. And also another thing that you talked about that I thought was interesting was your tying in to last week's Parsha, the Lech Lecha Parsha. So I don't know, there's a couple of things that maybe you can touch on because I know you spoke about them just past Saturday.
Oh, well, the Parsha of Lech Lecha, this week's Torah portion actually talks about God giving the Torah, giving Israel to the Jewish people, giving it to Abraham, the first Jew. And also that the Lech Lecha is to get out of your comfort zone. Lech Lecha, God told Abraham, who didn't live in Israel originally, didn't live in the land of Canaan, as it was called, leave your birthplace, leave your comfort zone, and go to the place that I'll show you. So I was sort of like, at the time, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I was just ready to jump and go. But after the fact, this is the week that we needed to get out of our comfort zone. And I just want to share, it's not all rosy over there. definitely tough times. There's no doubt about it. We visited Shiva houses. They had like tents set up in a kibbutz for the people of Kfar Aza. We're dealing with a community of I don't remember the exact numbers, but approximately like 700 people in the kibbutz. Approximately 200 of them were unfortunately massacred. And then they had many still with injuries, and I think about 50 of them were unaccounted for, were missing. So we're talking about 250 out of 700 people in a community. Everybody was affected. If it wasn't their family, it was their neighbor, but it wasn't somebody 2 blocks down. It was literally on every street and just about every house. And we went there, and we weren't prepared. We went there. We were thinking, there's a Chabad rabbi that runs Chabad help for terror victims, and they're an organization that's been unfortunately there for many years, because unfortunately terrorism is a reality in Israel, when it was the bombings on the buses and way before then as well. So unfortunately, they have a lot of work to do. And they were warning us. They said, you know what, just be there to support them. As Chabad rabbis, we're out there to encourage them to put tefillin on, put a mezuzah. But he shared that these communities were actually quite far left-wing communities with no connection to any rabbis. And Judaism is the last thing on their agenda right now. And he said, just be there for them. And what I found unique was that when we walked into the kibbutz, the first person that greeted us was a teen. He was at late teens. He had a huge cast on his hand. And he said, the Machablim, he showed us that this is what the terrorists did to him. And he said, in Ivrit, do you have tefillin? Can I put tefillin on with you? So I just thought it was very unique that we were coming there to give hugs and show sympathy and support. But, no Judaism, just be there for the people. And that was the reason why we were going. There's plenty of people in Long Beach and Lido or Atlantic Beach I can focus on in trying to inspire with a little bit more Judaism. But the people there, we just wanted to show them that we are there for you. But as soon as we got there, that's what they wanted. The people there realize what is our strength. It's the fact that we're Jews, and Jewish people have different types of weapons. And he insisted on putting tefillin on. It was a pleasure. And then we went to the different tents, this name and that name, and all over the kibbutz. It was shocking. There were signs: Shiva house for this family is in this direction. Shiva house for this family is in a different direction. Shiva house for this family is over there. And people were just sitting on on chairs, and people were coming and visiting. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of, at that time, there was about 15 of us, because some of them came a little bit later, about 15 Chabad rabbis. We looked like literally out of, didn't fit the kibbutz crowd over there. But, we just sat down and we started speaking in our broken Ivrit. They sometimes spoke in their broken English, or they spoke in Hebrew to us. Different rabbis knew more Hebrew, less Hebrew, but we just bonded. It was immediate. They were shocked that we're now coming. They said, did you come? When did you come? Have you been here the whole month? I said, no, we just came yesterday. So they were like shocked that, but there's a milchama, there's a war. Yeah, that's why we're here. And so once they heard that, they like all the barriers broke down, and they were shared with us their story, and each one had a unique story, but each one said it with such strength. They, and one individual, I remember very clearly, he spoke that, he said about 10 times in the conversation, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in God, but we in Israel are a Am Netzach. We are an eternal nation. If you don't believe in God, how can you even say you're going to be an eternal nation? It's only because of God that we know that we're an eternal nation. So he was speaking like a rabbi, but nonetheless, he told us multiple times he doesn't believe in God, but he was giving us chizuk. He was telling us, you know what? Here in Israel, we're going to be fine. You got to go back to America and help with the American Jews. He said a couple of times, I don't know what, he said, I know why you guys live in America, but I don't know why the rest of the people are living in America. They should be coming over here. So we tried to explain a little bit, but his idea is get the people involved. And this was in his mind, a non-believer, but he understood that the Jewish community needs to be involved in Jewish causes for them to be able to retain their strength. and it was just so inspiring. And there was one Ethiopian woman that was speaking. She sounded like she could run for the Knesset. The way she was talking. Her husband was killed. She was sitting there with her daughter. Her daughter was, like every typical teen, legs crossed, playing on her iPhone. But the mother was going on and on and on, and it was just so inspiring. And this was like, we had such trepidation about going to this place, because this was a place to, a yeshiva house. This was a yeshiva house, but wasn't a yeshiva house for one person that had passed away. This was a huge shiva house unfortunately, for up to 200 people in their community that had passed away. But most of them, people were happy to share stories. There were a few that are a little bit more quieter, and they gave us a hug, and they appreciated that we came. But so many of them showed such strength. And this was just the first few hours of our trip. So we had 3 days nonstop, going to Sderot, going to Ashkelon, going to Gaza, right there by the border. I mean, you just see the rockets flying. We had to run into a bomb shelter. See, this is not a time for tourism, but I just felt safe over there. I felt like Israel has your back. You don't have to worry. This is a country that we're all brothers and sisters. And no matter how comfortable we feel, I'm originally from Australia, my wife's from America, living here in any of these countries, we feel like first-class citizens. There's no doubt about it, but it's not the same. In Israel, it is a very, very special, because you feel like family. You don't feel like family with every single person walking down the street, even though, we all have these Western ideals and values of, the pursuit of justice and liberty, and the belief that everybody was created in God's image, and we believe in peace. It's unlike other nations around the world that are totally the opposite. But nonetheless, being in Israel is unique. And the fact is, Israel is always a tough place. You get pushed here, you get knocked here, you fight with the taxi driver, how many shekels, he tells you one price, and when you get there, he gives you another price. Israel is a tough place. But right now, Israel is so different. Everybody is there helping each other, and it's unbelievable. And I've never seen Israel like this. And I spoke to some people, they said even after the 6-Day War and things like that, it's not the same in Israel and not the same in America. There's a big awakening for all Jewish people across the globe.
It must have been some experience, and thanks so much for sharing it with us. I did find it interesting, maybe if you could touch on what you saw away from the kibbutzim, Sderot, and the South. I'm not sure where you stayed, but you mentioned some of the experiences and what you saw with some of the displaced people who are coming from all over the country up to the north, and I'm not sure how much of that is. I know there's a lot, so maybe you can just touch on that.
Yeah, the numbers I heard 200,000. I heard 125,000. But the bottom line is, everybody's talking about the Gazans displaced, but there are hundreds of thousands of Israelis that from the north and the south are displaced, and they're in the hotels. So literally 2 of our Chabad rabbis that signed up later didn't have room in the hotel. So who do you think is touring? You'd think the hotels are empty. But no, the whole place was full with a community called Kfar Maimon. And it was just beautiful to see that, in the synagogue, I joked around that, when we go to the hotel, people only have 3 pillows. They want 5 pillows. The shower is not big enough. All these comforts that we insist on. There, the people were so pure and innocent. They were just happy to be in a safe place. And when we walked into the lobby, it looked like a kindergarten. There were kids playing with crayons, drawing pictures on the ground. The teens were in the lobby area in the back over there. There was probably like 60 of them. They're laughing and having games till, in New York, everybody has to be in bed by 10 o'clock. Over there at 11:30, the parents are just telling them they need to go to sleep. They were just hanging out, having a good time. And you felt the innocence, and you felt the purity of just the simple people. These people that were living there in the community had now been uprooted. And I met one little kid in the hotel elevator, and I asked this kid, it could have been 6, 7. I asked him, I said in Ivrit, do you like the house that you lived in Kfar Maimon, or you love staying in a hotel? What's more fun? So the kid starts telling me a jingle that his sister made up, that they're from Kfar Maimon and their house is in the Malon. It just rhymes in Ivrit, and they're just pure, and it was just a pleasure to be with them. And on the last night, which was, I thought, so special, that one of the Chabad rabbis pulled out his guitar and he started to play music. And then more of them came down, and the teens came down, the boys, the girls, and they started dancing. And then the rest of the Chabad rabbis came down in the lobby. It was about 2 hours of dancing. 2 hours of dancing, pure joy, types of songs that encourage that we are going to be okay. And they loved it. And one of them commented and they said, they call the Shabbat like the Black Shabbat, the Black Sabbath, but when the terrorist attack happened. Now they said, now they made up for it because they didn't get a chance to dance. Now this made up for that opportunity where they couldn't dance on Simchat Torah with the Torahs. This was made up for them, and they relished it, and they were just so excited. And it was just beautiful to see.
Thank you so much again for sharing with us. And before we conclude, maybe, and before I tell you, I look forward to seeing you this coming Shabbos. I think I'll still be in the area, and look forward to joining you. Perhaps if you have a message for our group, for the AFC group, and for whoever else we share this with, of things to be thinking about or doing or praying on or whatever it may be going forward, because there's obviously some very tough times ahead. We had the massacre. Now we've had a little bit of a quiet period. Things still going on. Israel's starting to move into Gaza, but there's a lot that's happening from other countries and a spiritual side, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I feel that the people in Israel know very well what's going on in the world. They see all the Arab protests. They see the Jewish protests and solidarity. They know what's going on. They need to know that we have their back. And I've said from the very beginning, and this is coming from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that we're really all on the front lines. And there are different battalions. There are the tank battalion, there's the paratroopers, but there's also the Tefillin battalion, there's the Mezuzah battalion, there's the prayer battalion. Each one of us has a certain expertise, and we need to figure out which grouping are we. We're all on the front lines, and we all play an equal role. But are you the side that's going to be putting on tefillin, that's going to allow the soldiers to do what they need to do, just like they need ammunition in their guns to do what they need to do? We also give them ammunition when they know we are praying for them and that we're doing mitzvah. So I think all of us need to step up in our Judaism one way or another. Each person should think about something small, but something significant that they're able to do, whether it's lighting Shabbat candles, whether it's going to synagogue more often, because I find that a lot of people, when you look at the media, there's all the doom and gloom. If you're going to be together with the community, you're doing mitzvot, you're doing good things, you're volunteering, you're raising funds, you are going to be inspired, you're going to be uplifted. And by you being uplifted, you could do even better, and you can inspire also what's going on the other side of the world and change things that's happening on the other side of the world, because all Jewish people are connected. So if we falter, unfortunately, it brings them down, God forbid, and we want the exact opposites. We in America need to rise up to the challenge. If you're up for going to Israel right now, yes, there are rockets, there are times you have to run to the bomb shelters, there are times we have to run to the ground, but it's definitely doable, but that's not for everybody. If you're not able to do that, then right here, do what you can do and step out of your comfort zone to make sure that Israel is victorious and we have no more pain, no more suffering, no injuries. All our brothers and sisters in Israel are safe, and the soldiers come back home safely, and they achieve what they need to achieve. And it's also important to speak to your American politicians and all that, and the leadership, that they should not put pressure on Israel not to do what they need to do. Let them finish the job. That's been the problem all the time. In 67 war, Yom Kippur war, we never finished the job. And that's why we have the problem right now. Now is the time to finish the job. And then we will see true peace through the fact that there is a huge deterrence for anybody to mess with the Jewish people in the Holy Land.
So glad you added that to close. And with that, on my behalf, my sister, on behalf of the AFC organization and members, I'd love to thank you for your time today, and we look forward to speaking with you more in the future, and hopefully for many of our members to get to know you as time goes forward. And I'd like to just say, Am Yisrael Chai.
Yes, I'm Yisrael Chai, and I got many, many more stories, and look forward to sharing with you next Shabbos or with any of your audience if they would like to hear more.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Have a great evening.